We are here to help you with content, video expert on social media. Johnathan Creek, Lisa Novak. Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Johnathan, I have to say, I am that excited to have you on here. You know, I remember hearing you at Digital Live, and I reached out to Steve Carroll and said, who is this guy? Everything he said made so much sense. I'm super excited to have you on. Guys, if you are not doing video content, or if you are doing video content, either way, you need to be listening to Johnathan, TEDx speaker, award-winning journalist. Ta-da! Here we are. G'day.
Thank you. What an intro. I'm going to have to get you to write all my intros, Lisa.
Oh, thank you. How are you down in lockdown Melbourne? We decided we'd join you up here in New South Wales. Yeah,
they haven't got the handcuffs on me yet, but they're not far away, I don't think. We're going into heavy curfew tonight, so
yeah.
Whenever they do the curfew, it's a really weird feeling because you're locked down from 9 o'clock at night to 5 in the morning, and I don't usually go out between 9 o'clock at night and 5 in the morning, but when they lock me down, I feel like I want to.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
It's weird.
I mean, you know, as you get older, it almost sounds like our definition of bliss, doesn't it? Being locked out from 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, that sounds good to me. Johnathan, we're going to spend the next however long learning everything from you about video content. But do you want to just do a tiny bit of an intro about who you are?
Well, my name's Johnathan Creek, as you've already said. Yeah, I'm just a white kid who grew up in middle class Melbourne with a love for video. I think I was one of those kids that was lucky enough to be around 12, 14 years of age, around 1985, when VHS video cameras became a thing. And I think that was also a golden era for movies as well. There was a lot of great movies out around that time. And I just fell in love with video and storytelling. It was movies like E.T., Ghostbusters, Revenge of the Nerds, Police Academy, all these movies that were just coming out were just fantastic. Yeah, they were just really, really just caught our imaginations of what could be done. And so I was lucky enough to have a postmaster next door, and he loved going on holidays because the government gave him massive amounts of holidays, but he had a video camera, and he let me use it a lot. And I just fell in love with video from there. Once I went through school, I was the first student in Victoria to ever submit a Year 12 assignment or assessment made purely out of video.
Wow.
The education department promptly lost the tape, gave me an A and lost the tape. So sadly, that's gone somewhere. So if anyone from the education department's watching, you can just send it back to me. Reach out, hit me up. I'd love it back. And then I just wanted to be a TV journalist because that was the place where you got to tell stories every day. And what was really interesting about that was, everyone was saying, oh, you want to be a sports reporter? Because I was into sport. It's like, no, I don't want to be a sports reporter. I want to be a war correspondent. And they're like, why would you want to be a war correspondent? I said, well, because that's where the most emotional stories are told. That's where the most powerful stories that I know are told. And so my parents were horrified that I wanted to be a war correspondent. Luckily, at the time, there wasn't too much action going on around the world, so they felt sort of safe. But I remember going into an interview at Channel 7 where I ended up working for 15 years. It was a great career. I loved it. But one of the trick questions they asked me in the interview was, how long do you think it'll be before you're sitting behind the news desk reading the news? And I was horrified. And I said, please, I really don't want to do that. Like, I can't hide my emotions. I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit behind the desk reading other people's words in a fake studio with lights and whatever. I want to be out there with the people. I want to be on the front, the front seat or the front row of history, reporting on the biggest stories. And I just fell in love with that from then. And then in 2009, I started to become really interested in YouTube and the internet. And I used to sit there with every resource in the world working at a place like Channel 7. I had producers and assistant producers and access to cameras and helicopters and editors and $1 million worth of gear I could access. Yeah. Yet here were these kids. Here were these kids at home with really bad cameras creating videos for the internet and getting 500,000, 600,000 views. And I was like, what is it that they're doing with no production skills that's allowing them to get that many views and capture the attention of the world, where I've got all these resources and I'm getting the same amount of views? And so I started to play around with it a little bit, and I started doing in my stories, I started incorporating a little bit of internet culture into my stories, where, you know, one day on AFL Grand Final day, which is a bit more of a fun story, it was my job to go out and capture what they call the color of the event. So, you know, all the fans cheering and getting ready in the car park, and, you know, face paint and all the weirdos. And I'll set a challenge by quite a famous AFL footballer to use the names of every Spice Girl in my minute 10 story. So in my minute 10 story, I had Baby and Scary and Ginger and all these things. I weaved it all in, and that was okay, because the mass public audience had no idea what I was doing. But on the internet, on Twitter and stuff like that, where we'd let them know what I was doing, they knew. And then the hits on that story via Yahoo, because Seven and Yahoo had a relationship, went through the roof, and the guys at Yahoo couldn't work out what I was doing. And so I was having these in jokes, and then that started my love of viral content. And that's really where I focus now, is what has to happen in the viewer's brain to trigger them to share. So it's sort of this intersection of storytelling, marketing, and sort of being a little bit guerrilla and cheeky, which sort of suits me to a T. So I just love it. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
So many people, we know these days, Johnathan, so many people have got some of the best cameras right in their hands, right? Our iPhones are a Samsung phone, yet they're still being so underutilized. And it took me a little while to understand it myself, because unlike so many people, the camera just doesn't bother me at all. In fact, Mark and I always have a bit of a joke. I am a frustrated news reporter. I left school and went straight to News Limited for a journalist scholarship, and didn't realise that to be a journalist you had to know so much about politics. And anyway, I made my way into doing this scholarship, which was hard to, you know, even get your foot in the door in those days, and literally looked at the paper and walked straight back out again. But I truly believe that I missed my calling, because all I ever talked to my family about is how I wish I had become a news presenter. And I think this is where maybe, you know, I've combined my love of real estate with, you know, my love of doing what I do, however I do it. But I think there's so many people that are watching, Johnathan, they don't have that, you know, that passion. What are some tips that you can give people so that they can utilize these cameras right now and start to make some, just any sort of video content?
I think that's really important. I think there's one point where you're underselling yourself a bit, Lisa, is that I've watched you a lot on camera, and one thing that you're able to do that a lot of people struggle with is you remain yourself on camera as you do off camera. And even when you watch the news and watch TV journalists, at that moment where they're standing in front of the camera with the microphone and speaking, they are not themselves. They speak in a different language. They speak in a language that I call journalese. And, you know, an example of that is, you know, the offender decamped in a southerly direction. And it's like, no. The bad guy ran towards the train station. That's how they'd normally say.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. When you pick up your phone, whether it's a phone camera or a camera like I'm speaking on now, probably the hardest thing to do is to be yourself. Like, just because the camera's there, don't feel as though you have to reinvent yourself. And there's a lot of real estate agents that I know who refuse or just plain don't make video content because they want to project a certain image of themselves. Now, the problem is they're going to fail both ways. They're going to fail if they don't make content, and they're going to fail if they make content where they're not being themselves. So the first step is you've got to just do you. And once you are able to be yourself like you are, then you can make content endlessly, at will, at scale, and that's where you start hitting the marks, and that's where you start seeing the benefits. The guys and girls, they both do it, who make 1 or 2 videos a week or 1 or 2 videos a month, they're never going to cut through. They're waiting for a home run off one hit with a golden bat and a glass ball without it shattering. It's not going to happen.
That is such a great point, though. It really is. Because I know I get asked a lot, I help a lot of people in the industry, and often they'll say, I just want to do what you're doing, or I just want to do what, Gavin Rubinstein's doing. I'm like, you just need to be yourself, and that's the reality of it. At the end of the day, we're not journalists, we're real estate agents. And, it's super important that people can connect with you as well. So I think that is a really, really relevant point.
And that gets to my first point, which is do you. It's the most important thing you can do is do you, but you got to do something. So I've just taken off I had a bracelet on there.
I always think that I wish I had a camera sitting in these glasses, because the candid conversation that you have with people when they don't know there's a camera on is just great conversation. And that's the stuff I wish I could put out there. But as soon as you go, hang on a second, can you say it again? Game's changed. And, it's totally different. So I just, how do you stay? I don't know. It's it's great to say, good for you, but how does one actually do that?
Well, yeah.
So the way that you do it is stage 2. Sorry, Lisa, you go.
No, sorry. I was just going to say content's a big thing, right? Because, again, one of the other questions that I get asked a lot is, well, okay, so once I've got the camera rolling, like, what do I talk about? And I'm like, we have conversations all day, every day, like so many conversations all day, every day. We're just documenting it now. We never run out of conversation. I mean, when was the last time, Johnathan, you were sitting with a friend or a colleague and you got up after 5 minutes and said, look, I'm going to go because I kind of don't really have anything else to say to you. We don't run out of stuff to say.
No, you
don't. Content's a big thing.
Yeah, and what's a really interesting point, it's actually in my book, which is which is a little plug for the book there, like, comment, share, buy.
Okay.
So go and get that one. But what I really struggled with was I was trying to crack the code to viral videos. Why do people share certain videos? And I was originally just trying to find the one script fits all secret so that I could run a production company and just make cool videos for cool companies like Red Bull. That's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to stay a kid for the rest of my life. And the biggest challenge really was I had to get into conversations that people were having. And, Mark makes a really good point that he wants to have Google glasses and Snapchat put out Snap glasses that do exactly what he talks about. Wow. Where you can just film off your glasses and then they upload them to Snapchat and you can just have your conversations all day going up to Snapchat. So, and Apple's going to do the same. There was a comment there. So Apple's coming with it. It's coming, Mark. You're going to have your dream. So, but what was really interesting about viral videos and even getting it back to human behavior and human conversations, because that's all the internet is. Social media is just an on-scale version of a normal conversation. So if you imagine two people sitting at a table having a conversation about something, there's going to be a hierarchy and a balance and a it's not really a word, and my wife will kill me for using it because it isn't, but a comfortability between these two people that allows them to share certain things at certain barriers with each other, right? If you've known each other a long time, you're more comfortable and you share more personal stuff. But if a third person comes and sits at that table, the parameters and the dynamics completely changes. And it's the same on social media. Yeah. And then that was the trick that tricked me for about 3 years, trying to work out why did they share this video but not that video. And it actually ended up not being the video at all. It was just the scenario and the timing and the moment of peak relevance that this one, which went viral, got landed in the right spot, and this one got landed in the wrong spot. And you're going to see it with TV shows right now. So if anyone watches The Block, and a lot of people do, if you watch The Block at the moment, I fear that shows like The Block and Survivor that were filmed in February just gone in Melbourne when we were out of lockdown, they're building up this fake tension and this fake drama and all this sort of stuff. And that's normal and typical for these shows to do that, to carry you over the weekend to get you to watch. The problem is, particularly here in Melbourne, where we've gone back into lockdown, we're heading to 200 days lockdown. People have lost their tolerance and their compassion for any drama. They can't take on any more. And so these shows, I think, in my opinion, are going to suffer at the ratings because people can't handle the drama overload anymore. They don't need any more drama.
Wow.
And so that's exactly the same with viral videos. You've got to have your timing right.
So give us some examples. Give us some examples, Johnathan, if you can, of how people can make what could potentially be a viral video in just a few easy steps. And I know that's easier said than done.
Absolutely.
But for people
Very
that are
hard.
watching, and I can see there's some great people on here that are already doing some great content. I saw Anne Mole, a couple of people that are in real estate. I saw Lisa Kramer on here as well. These guys are already doing video content. I'm doing video content, stacks of it. But now I want to know, how do I 2X this as well, you know?
It is hard to do, but there are steps that once we worked it out and we're able to break it down, there's a sequence that you got to take the viewer through. And then all I did once I worked out that formula was reverse engineer the sequences so you know how to do it. The first step, which isn't really in the formula, but if you don't take it, you're never going to make it, is do you. You got to do something. So you got to start. You've got to be comfortable with making content. If you're not comfortable with making content, then people are going to see it. They're going to disconnect with you because you're nervous. They're going to feel a little bit sort of awkward for you, and they're never going to buy in. That's going to be the first hurdle. Yep. The second one is brand story clarity. You really have to know your own values. And this seems really strange, is that, you know, people say, oh, well, I know me. Well, a lot of people, they morph their values as they go to fit what they think is right at the time.
People,
people
can pick it a mile away.
100%.
Yeah.
And I do it for fun. Like I studied psychology. I've studied it for a long time. I can change people's opinions. Well, not we're allowed in groups at the moment, but when we're allowed in groups, I could get a guy to say something, let the conversation go around the room and completely change his opinion. And then I'd call him out on it and everyone would go, whoa, hold on a minute. How did you do that? Because I would have let other people know I was going to do it. Now, here's the thing. If you're not you, and the way that you got to work out your brand story clarity is what I call it, is you got to know your own values. What do you stand for? Great brands in the world stand for stuff. Now, in this personality-driven communication strategy that we're all buying into with social media, individuals are their own brand. So you've got to have your own values and you've got to stand for your own thing. Once you know where you stand, once you know the role that you're playing in every story that you tell, it becomes really easy because issues pop up every day and you just got to comfortably communicate your position and thoughts on that. And we've seen it a lot with vaccinations. We're getting a lot of people online talking about whether they want to be vaccinated or not.
Yeah. And listen, if you want a place to go viral, just put something up about vaccinations.
Well, you'll get some feedback.
I did that. I put a post onto LinkedIn, FYI. It had nothing to do with real estate, but it was just my point of view. And you know, it wasn't about vaccinations, actually. It was just about being kind to people. And it did go viral. I think it's up to something like 700,000 views on LinkedIn at the moment.
Amazing.
And counting, yeah. So,
because you stood for something. You took a stand.
Yeah.
But it was amazing that traction didn't happen across Insta or Facebook, but LinkedIn. I found that even more intriguing. Well, it was the same content across 3 platforms and one platform just went bang.
Yeah. And not my most popular platform. And FYI, it wasn't any of my real estate stuff that went viral. It was something completely non-real estate related. But, you know, it obviously struck a chord with a whole lot of people. And I think that's what you're getting at with vaccinations, Johnathan.
It does. People
just
are passionate about
big one, this is off the cuff a little bit. Fleetwood Mac, the song Dreams.
Yeah.
What the hell happened there?
With the guy on the skateboard?
Talk
I can't remember. What was his name?
But
what was his name, that guy?
I don't know.
Well, I used to know his name.
That went bananas. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
So I can tell you a little bit.
That song.
Yeah. Well, I put it onto my Insta stories quite a lot.
That one.
Yeah.
Why did that go bananas and why did that clip go bananas? Why?
It was TikTok, and what it was there was a guy, I can't remember his name, but he was a Latino. I think he was Latino. He had a shaved head. He had a tattoo of a feather down the back of his head, and he was on his. I think he was Dogface 2499 or something with his name. Something. Don't hold me to it, but I think it was something like that. And essentially, he was on a skateboard in LA in the middle of the coronavirus crisis, and he was just on a skateboard going down the entrance ramp of one of the big freeways with no traffic. And as he was doing it, he was drinking cranberry juice, and he was lip syncing to the song. And what people fell in love with, and Joe Rogan was a big part of it because he's got a massive podcast, is look how cool this guy is. Like, the world is falling apart, and this guy has just found a happy place.
Not a care in the world. And I think, but you know, Johnathan, you've struck a chord there, because when you can bring up some sort of an emotion in people, that's when you really start to get traction. That's what I find on social media, and I certainly don't do it intentionally. I do so much of it. I'm just me being me, just offering a service to people that wasn't ordinarily available, right, on social media. But there I found my niche, okay? And with this particular guy, he had struck an emotion in people that were locked down, that were, you know, and all of a sudden he's representing freedom, that euphoric feeling that, you know, that obviously people weren't feeling, being locked down all over the world. And I think that, you know, it's...
Here he is.
Yeah, there he is.
Is it Dogface? Anyway, the great story out of him is that he got a Sea Spray cranberry juice sponsorship.
Oh, didn't he?
He got out of his trailer. He was basically homeless. They got him a home. He got a new Ford truck. Like, his life turned around because of social media. And that's the thing. I get to stage 5 is all about emotional buy-in. And you're right, Lisa. That's the fuel. There's just a few hurdles before the emotional buy-in. There's just a few. I'm just trying to look at the screen. Yeah. There's just a few hurdles before you can get to that emotional buy-in that trips people up. And they don't see these hurdles. And that's why they don't succeed the way that they think they should, because they're not quite getting it right. They're just wanting success straight to the end.
And Johnathan, could I suggest that one thing that I noticed with, look, Lisa's fabulously successful in our industry on social, and something that I've found is, you know, he said being authentic and stuff. Lisa never chased, like that guy, he never chased 30 million views. He was just like, I don't give a shit. And I found that with Lisa doing her stuff, and you get traction or you don't, it doesn't matter. But Lisa doing her stuff is much the same. And you know, she's just like, I'm just doing my job, and this is what I want to tell everyone. And I'm a bit, but you know what I mean? Like, I find that those people actually are more, I know it's easy to say authentic, but they're not chasing and they're not killing themselves going, why haven't I got the views? They're just doing their shit.
Let it happen. Let it happen, because if you force it, people can see. Like, we can see on video. We can see in your faces. We can see. We read more things than just the words you're saying to us, and that is a big part of it.
Wow, but that's cool. You know, that is so true what you're saying. You know, people they see your expression, or they might see me, you know, just being clumsy, or like, you know, wasn't looking my best, but just unapologetically, you know, I'm like, don't care. It's not about me. Like, this is about you guys. And genuinely. So
I'll give you an example.
I do want some examples, because there are many people that are watching, and I'm intrigued as well. I mean, you and I have had many conversations. I'm like, Johnathan, help me. Like, I really want to just, you know, 2x what I'm doing for no other reason except that, you know, I just see that there's value there for so many people in it. I would love to give some of these.
I like Colin's word, fluid. Fluid's a sick word.
Yeah, it is.
Fluid. I love that.
Word. So here's the difference in my world. So when I was in television, I was doing a live cross one day in a dust storm at Docklands. There was this big dust storm coming, and they thought, what a great idea if we go and put a journalist out in the middle of the storm, right? So they sent me out in the middle of this storm I was wearing contact lenses. It's a dust storm. You can see it. It was like 200 meters in the air coming from the west over to Docklands. There's not a single tree in Docklands. There still isn't. So I had no cover or protection. And so I'm standing there ready to report, and I've got my notepad. I've actually got the actual notepad here somewhere. And I was holding this notepad, and the storm hit as we're doing the live cross, right? Perfect timing. The notepad, my notes blew everywhere, and I lost my lines.
Oh, no.
Right? I'm in the middle of a dust storm. That's normal. Like that's what that's okay. But I knew when I was losing my lines and trying to work out which interview I was trying to throw to, that in the head office, they'd be blowing gaskets. And that was the thing. Why not just let it be real? Right? It's more entertaining if it's real. People can connect to it more if it's relevant. If I was standing in a dust storm, I'd lose my notes too. That sort of stuff. I came back from the interview. I had a bit of a joke with myself. I drove back to the office. I got banned from doing live crosses for the next 6 months. And I was like, how unfair is that?
Wow.
You set me up to fail, and then you punish me. The thing with the internet, and I think the thing that points towards your benefit, Lisa, is that you make what we call raw video. You get on a live stream, it's raw, it's a bit bumpy. Sometimes there's people in the way. Sometimes you don't quite get the right shot of the room or the sun's shining in. People connect with that because it's the ultimate reality TV. The other side of their brain is if you over-polish your videos and over-produce your videos, kids of the 70s and the 80s are trained to avoid that type of content unless we've paid a lot of money to sit in a really comfortable seat in a dark room with popcorn to watch it. Because outside of the movie industry, that type of content is an ad. And we're ad avoiding ninjas. And this is the problem with real estate. Most real estate agents that I know who are struggling at the moment are using house tour videos at the top of their funnel. They shouldn't be using house video tours at the top of their funnel because the chances of them landing with the person at a moment of peak relevance who's interested in that home at that time is so small when organic reach is only 5%. So what you need to be doing is you need to be doing more like what you're doing. Sitting at the top of the funnel, creating an audience, and then using their viewer discretion for them to find the properties and the videos about the properties that they're interested in. It's the second or third video marketing step. It's not the top of your funnel. So if you're doing that, if you're doing these overproduced videos at the top, you're setting yourself up for failure. You have to lead with your personality, and it has to be strategic.
And Johnathan, I mean, I often say, when I do a lot of my talks and my interviews, I'll often say social media is not really the right forum for these what I call the Hollywood style production video. We're used to seeing that very raw content on social media. If you think about the way, we view social, it is quite raw. In terms of video content, if you think about Tom Panos in our industry, he's amazing at what he says and does, but it is that raw content. I know for myself, and I can think of some phenomenal agents in the country, but they do videos and I will watch them for 2 seconds only because I'm just interested to see what they do, but I kind of lose interest in it because it's almost, as you said, just a little bit too polished, and it's the wrong forum for me. I know what you mean, about these. And I remember you once said to me, because I said I do these 60 to 90 second videos because I worry people will lose their attention span after that. And you said, well, you think about how long you sit in a movie cinema for when you're interested in something. And I was
that's the number one question I get is how long should my video be? And people, you'll get the social media gurus. And, when I'm not in COVID, I'm going and speaking on stages all around the place. And I don't know why, but they always put me as the closing keynote. And
I do know why. You've got phenomenal content. That's why.
Well, they put me as the closing keynote, and that's a massive advantage for a speaker because then I can throw stones and pick holes in every other speaker's strategies and speaking. And they can't return fire because they're already in the green room. They're done. But what happens is I get to these events and you get gurus who talk about your videos are got to be 1 minute and 17 seconds long. It's like, really? Why? Oh, because we've got the attention spans of goldfish now. Humans are evolving to not pay attention to things. Really? Statistics show that we're watching more video content than ever.
Well, Mark and I have just watched, I think, Homeland on Netflix back to back for about 6 hours last night.
Yeah, because it holds your attention.
Yeah.
Now, I always say, right, if you think that your videos should only be running 1 minute and 17 seconds long because we've got the attention spans of goldfish, go sit in the hallway of a movie cinema.
Yeah, this is my background in Syria from Homeland. Yeah, because I
like what you've done with the place. It's a real fixer-upper.
Because I mean, we've been watching Homeland, sort of seemed fitting to be Syria and all that stuff. It's
very good. So sit in that foyer, right, outside the movies and wait for 1 minute and 17 seconds. Because I've done it. I've gone and sat in the cinema in the hallway and waited 1 minute and 17 seconds because I wanted to see all these people with short attention spans leaving the movies because they can't pay attention anymore. They don't. It's false data. The reason why viewing times are down and viewing times are shorter on videos is because there's more crap videos out there. And viewers are spoilt for choice. They don't like something, they jump off it and find something that they do like. Mm. And the thing is, because everyone's now got a camera phone, there's more people making crap content. So the power hammer will be in the hands of the people who learn how to tell great content. Now, why were you able to sit through Homeland, was it?
Yes.
Why were you able to sit through episode of Homeland? Why was James Cameron able to keep people sitting in Avatar for 3 hours, Titanic for 3 hours, and make $2, $3, $4 billion out of those movies? Because he understands the power of story. Right. Now, this is where story is important. You've got to make videos to get people to pay attention to you, because if you haven't got videos there, they don't know you're there.
Right.
Being consistent and standing with something is going to trigger them to pay you attention because they have a connection. You've then got about 7 to 8 seconds to let their brain know that the brain is going to get a story. Once the brain knows that it's going to get a story, it will justify the investment in time to get to the lesson of the story, because the brain is the most selfish organ in the body, and the thing that it loves above everything, other than being the last organ in your body to die if you drown, the thing that it loves the most is storytelling. And we know that.
Which organ?
If you're drowning, the brain will actually steal oxygen from all the other organs to make sure that it dies last.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Knowing that it's setting the body into a catastrophic shutdown, it will take it. But the other thing that the brain loves is stories. And we know that because a third of the time that you're awake, no matter what you're doing, the brain is doing one thing. What is it, Mark?
Sleeping.
It's daydreaming. And what's daydreaming? Daydreaming is the brain telling itself stories. Now, because the brain's all about saving itself, the brain's all about saving itself and saving energy and keeping itself safe, if it can get a story from someone else without having to do the creative work, without having to spend the calories, it will put up the blinkers, it'll lock in, and it will stay there and get the story for free. Now, you got kids?
Man.
I got kids.
Yes.
What happens on a Saturday morning? You walk out, outside COVID, obviously. Hey, I got 2 girls. Hey, girls.
So do we.
We've got 20 minutes to get to the hockey field. Your game starts. Go get yourselves ready. Come back 10 minutes later, they're still sitting there in front of the television. You're like, did they even hear me? No, they didn't hear me. So what do? You go 0 to 100. Hey, go get yourselves ready. We're going to be late. And then they look at you as if, why are you yelling at me? Like it's the first time they've ever heard you. It's because their brain is so locked into the stories, and cartoons, Disney, all these, Pixar, all of them are so good at storytelling that the barriers are up, the distractions are out, and the kids are locked in. Now, understand this when you transport it to a social media platform where you've got so much stuff. We got so much stuff going around. You've got ads, you've got competitors, you've got people posts above you, posts below you. If you have the ability to lock a viewer into a story, it then blocks out all your competitors. And that's the biggest advantage of storytelling. Wow. So when people talk about story, That's actually what they mean. And I think the 99.9% of people who say, hey, you got to tell a story, have no idea what they're talking about or how to do it.
But Johnathan, I've got to say
Wow.
that I reckon real estate agents are one of the best storytellers in the country. And I reckon they are very good. Look, let me put this in frame though. If you go to a pub in a country town, and around the bar's a real estate agent, they'll have a chat with everyone, they'll know everyone, they'll have a yarn, they'll do this or that. And then if I go like that to that real estate agent at the bar, he'll go zoop. So it's like, dude, put you around a bar with a beer in your hand, you tell the best stories ever. You're good, like awesome. And then put a camera in his hand, zoop.
Yep.
We're good at chatting, good at talking, telling stories, but not on camera.
Can I just say, because a lot of the audience, Johnathan, is going to be real estate agents watching. Give us an example. Like if I was saying to you, Johnathan, I'm going to make one video tonight and it's got nothing to do with property, but I want to tell a story, or it's got something to do with property, whatever it might be. How like, give me an example. What does that look like? What does that video look like?
It's a very big question. It's very hard to answer without having a whiteboard and going into it. Like I teach this stuff, and it can be 3 or 4 hours of work. Story frameworks. There's so many of them. Probably the one that gets spoken about the most on the internet is the hero's journey, and it sort of drives me mad a little bit. The hero's journey, because it's like people think they know, because they know the hero's journey, they know everything. This is going to blow your mind. I prefer one called Freytag's Pyramid. But the easiest one, which was designed by Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, years and years ago, of course, forever ago. And what Aristotle set out to do, it's told in the tombs when you read them, is that he wanted to work out why some acts for the emperor were more popular than others. Sound familiar, right?
Yeah.
Sort of why my journey of why are some videos more popular on the internet than others. Which, and I love Aristotle, so I sort of tied that in. And what he did is he started to work out, just by watching, that the plays and the performances that had a structure, a beginning, a middle, and an end with a lesson, were the ones that people liked the most. Now, we're getting into real brain science here. What he was finding was that because they open a story loop in the brain. So your brain always has story loops. And in Hollywood movies, you can have multiple narratives. You can have, sometimes you have 14, 15 different stories going at once. Yeah. And your brain calculates it and knows it. But your brain also knows which ones are resolved and unresolved. Now, if you leave an unresolved story loop in a movie, people leave a little bit flat. Because they're like, did Luke Skywalker survive or not? Now, if we go back to the block, they do it on every ad break.
Yes.
Right, so it sucks you into going back to find out what's going on. So probably the easiest framework to teach people now, Lisa, and I've actually got a download that I can put the link in the chat later, and people can go to it. And it's
awesome.
It's this framework designed for real estate agents. I purposely made it in the last lockdown, and I haven't released it. So I'll give it to you. I'm just sitting there. Why not? So what you're going to do in your video, the first thing you have to do to get people's attention is not speak to someone as if you're speaking to a group. You have to portray that you're speaking to them directly, so that the camera's not even there. You've got to reduce the distance of what they call the fourth dimension. So a lot of people say, hey, guys, hey, how you all going? You've got to make it more personal than that now. That was probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, so I should stop with my hey, guys.
But I think you'd say hey, guys, to 2 people if they walked in the door.
But I said that's what I say normally. A girlfriend of mine is actually an actress. And when I first started doing these videos 3.5 years ago, she said, I'm going to give you some acting classes. You're not going to start with hey guys. And I said, I don't want acting classes. I just want to be like me. And that's how I talk. If I walk into a room full of all my friends, that's exactly what I say.
Do you? But I did say that, so I've got to defend it.
Okay.
I would really like to try manipulating your intro a couple of ways and just see what happens.
I'm up for the challenge.
I think there's some room there for some data, and I'm all data based. So
the gauntlet's been thrown down.
That's it, right?
Going down.
So the first thing you got to do is you got to start with open your videos with a problem driven by a desire. Just say that again.
A problem.
Open your video by framing a problem driven by a desire. Big words, a little bit complex, but if you think about it and let it percolate in your head, you'll start to understand it. And I would do that before I even introduce myself.
Have you walked into a local shop these days and they don't want to sell you a mask or serve you? Hasn't that given you the shits?
No. I'd go like this. Have you ever dreamed of living on a beachfront property in DY?
There's the emotion.
Right?
So what is it?
Dream. Yeah. I mean, start with a problem driven by desire. How hard has it been for you to find the perfect property on the northern beaches?
Yeah, love that.
Oh, man, it's been so hard. I've been to 30 auctions. I've been outbid by 300 grand. Right?
I'm going to write that down for everyone. Say it again.
I'm copying that.
No, we'll just go back to the recording. It's okay. The second bit, Act 2, right, is the journey. So you've got to share someone's journey who's had that struggle. I know someone who's been to 30 auctions and still hasn't been able to land their dream property. All right? So then they feel, you're churning them a little bit. You're getting them to feel the pain that the other person's felt and the pain that they probably felt themselves when they missed out on the last property. So you're getting that emotional buy-in going. The last step is the lesson. Well, the lesson is you've got to get in here or aim for properties like this or go one block back. You're still only 10 minutes from the beach, but it's in your price range. You give them the lesson. Success or failure in the journey doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if the person gets the property or not. You just have to teach them the lesson. That's all the brain's after. Videos that have success in them in the end of the story or failure in the end of the story don't get shared any differently. It's the ones that have the lesson that do. And that's called the 3-act play. That's a really simple on the go to the point where I even developed, and you'll love this. Here's one that I used yesterday. I use the 3-act play all the time. I know so many story frameworks. I've used them every day. I use the 3-act play. This is a little template that I put on my phone. It's just like a glasses sticker. I put it on my phone. It's got the 3 acts. I write it with a whiteboard marker so that when I'm talking to my phone, I know where I'm going each point. It's got an arrow to remind me to look at the camera. Make sure you're looking at the camera.
Good.
Right. And then I peel it off. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. So when I'm doing my live streams, and you'll see it the other day, this one was one from Saturday, so create systems and consistency. You'll see it in my live stream, how I go from 1, 2, 3. And what it does, Mark, what this does, it means I don't have to remember it. I just have to know what each chapter is.
Some people may like that because they're not looking at themselves. Because it distracts you. So you've got your sticker straight over your nugget. Who gives a shit? Look at the camera and bolt and blast it out. I like that.
Yeah. And, you just clean it off with a bit of cleaning stuff, and away you go. You use it again and again and again and again.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So, Johnathan, you actually train this sort of stuff, though, don't you? Like, I know that we're going to be inundated with people saying, look, where can I get this guy's details? Because I know that's what I asked Steve Carroll when we saw you at Digital Live.
That's Steve Carroll.
Where can people find you, and will you train people one-on-one? And I'm asking for myself. I know we've been trying to get you up to Sydney. We were coming to Melbourne. Like it's,
We missed out by hours. We missed out by hours. Didn't we, Mark? We were on the phone. I was getting on the plane. I was like, if I can't, I've got to.
Every time I talk with you, I always get a couple of good nuggets, and I was like, I'm going to get some good nuggets when he's here, and when he's here. He's not here. COVID.
So, do you do this training one-on-one? Is it something that we people, anyone who's watching me, Mark, everyone, as I said, everyone who's watching can can we do this virtually with you via Zoom?
Yeah, so there's a number of different ways. I have a program, an online program, which people can do individually. I've got it here somewhere, which takes you through everything in this folder. I run that so that, and it's done in a way that it's not going to take too much work to do. So it spreads out over time, so you can still be a real estate agent. You can still make all your calls. I'm not going to give you this extra workload that's going to make you hate me because I'm making you do extra work, right?
Yep.
I've spent a lot of time, and I'm one of those people who I plan and do a lot of research. I've always been a researcher, and I did a lot of research into real estate before I really started. I didn't even target real estate to begin with. I did the TEDx, and then the TEDx took off, and then people from real estate came to me and said, look, real estate's such an emotional purchase. It's one of the biggest purchases people ever make. I think what you've got would really work for real estate. I didn't target real estate for 12 months after that. What I did was I went and met with a lot of real estate agents to understand how the offices work, to understand how the sales teams work, to understand where are they busy, where aren't they busy, how does what I know fit into what they do. And so now the program's really specific for two markets for me, real estate and online marketing. So I've got two versions of it. The real estate version is, I think, amazing. I think every time I've rolled it out to real estate agents, it does work really well. And people get a lot out of it because they're learners and they want to learn and they can see the benefits from it. So I've got an online program. They've got the book. And also I do small office consultancy, which obviously is parked at the moment, but once we open up, we'll open up again soon.
And Johnathan, do you do this training for people that have never ever done video before?
It's the best for them.
It's the best, right? Okay, because you can train them right from the get-go, right from the very basics. Is that right?
I'll tell you why people don't make videos a lot of the time. It's not because of the way they look. It's not because they're waiting to lose weight. It's because they don't know what to say, and they're scared that if they say the wrong thing, they'll get judged. So brand story clarity, that first step that I gave you, that gives them absolute clarity on who they are and the angle that they're taking in every story. It gives them their role. Now, what's really funny is when I also go into the brand story clarity part of the program inside sales teams, is I can actually then go back to the owners and say, listen, your sales team, when you get them all making videos, is like a soap opera. You've got the alpha guy, you've got the older lady, you've got all these people, right? And they all play a role in attracting a variety of buyers, sellers, and community relationships. Now, if you've got too many of the one type, it's going to be a really boring soap opera because you've got no variety. So sometimes I've had conversations with people saying, listen, you haven't got enough older women with empathy to deal with people who have either lost their partners and are downsizing or have been through a divorce or any of that sort of problem. You need one of these softer empathy type players. There's 12 personalities that play out in videos and characters, and you need one of these. It's like Disney. Disney's got a princess for every type of kid in the personality spectrum. They really do. And sales teams...
Mark's just got a lot of princesses. 3 girls in the family. There's a lot of princesses.
Yeah. We're the same, brother. Fist bump. Girl dad. That's it. So what you've got to do with your sales teams to this point, once you actually get them making content, it can then affect what I do can then affect who they hire next, because you start seeing the gaps in the market, and that you've got 3 sales guys all fighting over the groups that come from the sporting clubs, but you're missing everyone over in the bowls club or the country women's association. And so we start nurturing and developing teams that make them more efficient. And in the end, if they do it the way they follow this program, there's 2 more steps, triggers and emotional buy-in. If they follow those 5 steps, they start owning territories. And I said this to Mark in one of the nuggets I gave Mark previously on the phone, is that content is the best SEO on the planet. Don't even think that it isn't, right? Content is the best SEO on the planet. So if you start making content in your patch, you'll be able to own it as a territory, and if you start now, you'll be able to get in front of your competitors And as long as you keep making content that's real, relevant, and relatable, your competitors will never be able to catch you. And on Facebook news feeds, on YouTube, on TikTok, on all these platforms, just because of the way the algorithm works, is you'll own that space. Now, the power of that is if you're putting out videos of house tours, you've got to find the person in the buying cycle at the right time. If you do it my way, if you do it the way where you own the territory, you just become the person who, when they're having the conversation that we mentioned an hour ago at the coffee table saying, I'm thinking about selling my house, you got a chance that the other person sitting at the table goes, oh, well, I reckon you should go see Lisa because she knows the Northern Beaches really well. She's the expert.
I hear that all the time, Lise. You probably don't realise. Yeah, I hear that all the time.
And that's the truth. I mean, I wasn't trained in this, but I feel like I need to be now, which is quite funny because now I guess for me, like I've realised that it's not in my head. It is a real thing. I mean, just today alone, Johnathan, I'm certainly not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying that I'm living proof that this stuff works. I got 8 appraisals today, 8. And so in anyone's world in real estate, that is a phenomenal day of appraisals. Now, those appraisals came as a result of my social media. And it's gotten to a stage now where I'm like, this is just insane, but I want to be able to 2x it because I feel like I'm not bored with the stuff that I do, but I feel like maybe the people that are watching are. So, and you're always just trying to sharpen your blade as well.
Yeah.
But, this is phenomenal content that you're giving us tonight. Absolutely phenomenal.
So I want to ask you guys a question because this frustrates me to no end. I meet real estate agents all the time. Like I go and meet them and I talk to them about what I do. And these real estate agents will sit there and say, the market, the media is talking about the market being good, but, business is ho-hum, probably got 40 to 30% capacity still in my sales team that we could fill them up. And I sit there and go, okay, well, how's their social media going? Nah, we don't see any value in social media. We've tried a few times and it hasn't brought anything back.
Right. I hear that all
and
the
I
time.
sit there and say, you're struggling. You could do more. Here's the opportunity to do something that's free. There's no ongoing cost. It detaches you from the pay model of the bigger real estate business, the bigger real estate platforms, who you're, as a real estate agent, understand this. You're paying realestate.com.au and domain money to build their database, not yours.
Yeah.
This is a way of detaching from that, owning your own space, getting yourself out of any political fights, and doing more business.
And helping people. Like you are helping these, like you're giving these guys tools to buy, sell, rent, landlord, invest. It's, helping. It's great.
But they don't. And what frustrates me is they still hum about it. They ho-hum about it. So, Lisa, I want to toot your horn. I want to toot your horn. You said you wouldn't toot your own, but I'm going to toot it for you. You've done more for someone like me than you realise because you've actually shown what I've been talking about for the last 12 to 24 months, that this is what you should be doing. And you've gone and done it. You've proved that it works. And almost, to me, I sit there and go, thank God for Lisa Novak, who had the guts to go out and do it. Because I've got you've never said anything to me, but I've got no doubt in my mind that other real estate agents would be looking at you and what you're doing and be going, oh my God, And I think Zed gets it down here too in Melbourne. What are these guys doing? Why are they doing this? This is not how real estate used to be done. You shouldn't be doing it this way.
And thank you so much for saying that. Like, that's a massive compliment coming from you, Johnathan. It really is. But, the thing is that it took a lot of guts. And I want people to understand that 3.5 years ago, I had only just started in sales and I had this crazy idea that I was going to do this raw video content and put it out to my social media. I saw that there was a massive gap in the industry for that sort of marketing, but it wasn't taken very well by the industry. It is now. Don't get me wrong. I get a huge amount of support, a massive amount of support. But it wasn't then, right? It was something new. They were like, that's weird. Like, what does Lisa know? I mean, she's only just started sales, you know, but I believed in it, but it took a lot. And I talk a lot about courage, and I know Steve Carroll's watching, and it's a big word that he uses a lot too, but it did take a lot of courage and to break through that noise. And I think for anyone that's watching, if you feel uneasy about this, and if you feel nervous, and if you feel like you're just making a fool of yourself, good. Because it's what pushes you to actually keep going, right? Now, I've done a lot of the hard work for you guys because I'm living proof. 8 appraisals today. Like, you know, that is no bullshit. I mean...
And this goes...
Can I wait a minute? How many appraisals do you get today, Mark?
None.
So...
Maybe it might be the blonde hair.
You couldn't share him a couple, Lisa?
The dog a bone.
There's enough to go around.
It also goes across every industry as well. That, you know, you've got anyone who's watching, whether you're a plumber, an electrician, a carpenter, you know, anything that you do out there. If you're wanting to attract, if you're wanting to help people, and you're wanting to attract customers, you know, this is value for people out there. So it's not just, today's show is not just about, you know, helping your brother out, real estate agent. It's also about helping out our community that, you know, with this relevant content. So guys, share this with friends, with family, that you can think that, you know, like, look at how many businesses I think Kim Kardashian built off Instagram, a billion dollar business within 2 years. This is lucrative business for people in our local community that are having a hard time with COVID, that are looking for to pivot into a new direction. Video.
But here's the other bit, right? Let's and I know you're business owners, so this may be a little bit counterintuitive for your business, but I think you're big enough to deal with it. If you're an independent real estate agent, and you know, I look at the guys that are working for you, the guys and girls that are working for you guys at Novak. They are able to build their profiles while working with you. And they keep those profiles.
Yeah, well said.
They keep that influence.
Yep.
They build their brand under you guys, and then there's nothing stopping them. Like, I don't think you've got anything in your contracts saying you've got to cancel your social media accounts when you leave. They build their brand under you, and then they get to take that network with them. Now, we're seeing it all the time. We're seeing real estate agents getting caught for downloading databases when they leave and they shouldn't, and all that sort of stuff. These guys get to do it legitimately.
Yeah.
It's bigger than that. Actually, we did have that come up with social media recently, what you just said. But there was some taking down of social media. But the thing is, it's given people, if you give a swordsman a sword, and call the sword Facebook or call the sword Instagram, whatever that may be, and he's a very good swordsman, it doesn't matter. He can take that sword and use it anywhere. You're right. He's built the brand. So it's even bigger than Facebook. And, you know, once you've built your brand, which is what you're referring to, you know, take YouTube away, take Facebook away. That brand is there. Where do you want to paint it? Do you know what I mean? So it's pretty powerful. There's so many people in the community know what you do, even when Facebook's gone or Insta's gone. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
Guys, can I just finish up by saying, Johnathan, you know, I mean, you've given us so much of your time. There are so many people at the moment that are in lockdown. We're fortunate here in Sydney that we can still operate and do these one-on-one inspections, right? So things still bop along. But in Melbourne, I know, because I've been talking to a lot of agents and helping train some agents with social media and stuff. It is such a good opportunity for you guys to jump on board and learn all about video content with Johnathan.
Yeah. Like, this is right now.
I'm going to be doing it. You guys have got time now. All right. So we're going to put some links, Johnathan. The best way for people to contact you, we're going to pop some links into our social media. You know, guys, I can tell you now, Johnathan is hands down the best in the business for this sort of stuff. You'd have to be absolutely crazy to not take this up. You know, because the content that you offer, Johnathan, is phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Hey, Johnathan, do you want to give a lolly away tonight? We'll send it to people. If they SMS us, we can send them a video, a PDF, a whatever you want. you want to give any lollies away? We can set. I'll set up.
I'm gonna give away my 3-act play, which my 3-act play template, which I built just for real estate. So I'm going to put that in the comments right now. Here we go. So you can just go to that, log in, and you'll get it. And then you can book a free strategy call with me on the back of that. So, because I'll help you do it, I'll help you implement it. That's what
Unbelievable.
I've got plenty of time.
Now, can I just finish off by saying Steve Carroll, who we all know and love, has told us that you're coming on the bike ride next year in Thailand, the Digital Live bike ride, and that people can get 5 days worth of free content if they just ride their bike next to you. Is that true?
Well, I love to talk, Lisa. So whoever can, I used to ride a lot, so I'm going to make sure I'm going to be super fit. So only the fit and the fast, or maybe I'll go.
I'm pretty good in lycra.
Can I give you 5 quick, more practical, hands-on things to avoid?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's go.
Let's go.
These are things that I learned along the way. I've even written them down on a piece of paper. That's my daughter's homework on the back. Humans can't watch bad audio. Understand that, right? Humans can't watch bad audio.
Isn't that the truth?
If you are walking through an open for inspection, showing a house, don't always turn in the one direction. If you turn left every time, the viewer will actually get dizzy and the brain will get what they call twisties, which is really relevant because that's what the Olympic gymnast, the American gymnast, got in America. You will give them twisties if you turn in the same direction every time.
Okay, I love that.
Make sure you turn left and right and keep it slower than you think.
That's incredible. Right. Would never have thought that, but yeah, I believe it.
We mentioned this earlier. Understand the current scenario. There's a lower level of tolerance for drama. Okay, so you've got to be more empathetic at the moment. That's one of the triggers out there in the world at the moment, and you can see it with Facebook and the others. They're trying to turn down these traumatic events, and what's happening in Afghanistan is absolutely horrific. And I fear that that's probably going to get hidden a bit because populations in Sydney and Melbourne are already stressed, and so these social media platforms actually control moods by protecting us from stuff. So understand that. So be more empathetic. It'll take 28 days of consistent content before you get assessed on a platform like Facebook to see whether they put you to the next level as a creator. Now, what I mean by that is you pick your topic, you pick your area, and you consistently create content about that for 28 days. Then you get assessed whether you go to the next level. So 1 or 2 videos isn't going to cut it. You've got to do 3 or 4 over 28 days to then be assessed to see whether you get to the creator level.
At least. I think I do that every day.
You've done that, Lisa. You're okay.
I think I'm over the top.
Polished content is a curse because people think it's an ad.
Polish content.
Polished, not polished. The Polish are our friends at the moment. They sent you guys extra Pfizer. So polished content. So overproduced content is a curse. You think you're doing the right thing. You think you're paying money for a production company to come in and make you a really swish video. I run a production company. I'm like Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm trying to put myself out of business here because I know that it's not right. I can make you the swishest video in the world, but at the end of the day, it's only one video. You're not going to get your return on investment. It's why my company's called Viable. You've got to be as viral as you can, but still viable for your business. 2 words comes together. Having me spending however many thousands of dollars for me to make you a video, it'll be the best video you've ever had, but it's still only one video. And in this current climate as a real estate agent, you need more videos.
Yes.
Right? You need to spread it out and create more content.
Love that.
And the way to win is to be real, raw, and relatable.
Relatable.
Honestly, I could listen to this all night. I love all this sort of stuff. Johnathan, there has been so much content here.
How do you spell relatable?
Huh?
How
do you spell relatable? Yeah.
R-E-L-A-T, realer, so R-E-L-A, and then table. No, just one T. One T.
That's me being relatable. Raw.
Real and raw and raw.
Johnathan, you have been an absolute legend. I mean, you know, we've had a lot of comments coming through. So much content there, honestly. And, you know, you haven't even just, I'm sure we could just talk for hours and hours and hours. There's so much content that you've actually got a whole course on this. I'm going to be doing it, guys. We've been trying to get Johnathan up to our office, but we've been stuck in a lockdown. So, you know, if we can't do this sooner rather than later, we're just going to have to do it via Zoom, Johnathan. But I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you've got better things to do on a Monday night than sit and chat with us for over an hour. But, you know, your content is invaluable. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing it with us.
And Lisa, thanks so much for letting us talk as well. We normally have a bit of trouble when there's three of us on the screen with Lisa, and you've been great tonight, Lisa.
I've been trying to listen. There's so much for me to learn here tonight. That's why.
Now, one other point.
So rude, Mark. You know you're going to get in trouble when you get home.
Yeah, Mark. Yeah, Mark. Behave. Now, I do have a link to my book if you're interested in me putting that on. I don't want to plug too much. I'm an anti-plugger.
Plug away.
But
plug in the book.
That's from Amazon. I think it's on sale at the moment on Amazon. So you've got all that extra time not being stuck in peak hour traffic coming up. So you'll be able to barrage through the book pretty quick. 20 pages a day, take you 10 days. There you go.
Love it.
I like that. It's cool.
Johnathan, you're an absolute legend. Take care. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you really soon. Thank you for your generosity as always. And also, I just want to say one last shout out. My ARIC talk that I did in May of this year up on the Gold Coast, you were the last person that I spoke to before I actually did my ARIC talk. And the things you told me were, honestly, absolutely invaluable. Just so many things that you said to me to do, and I did it, and I had zero nerves when I got on the stage. So, yeah, absolutely incredible. Cannot recommend you highly enough.
Thank you, Lisa.
Have a great night, everyone. Stay safe in COVID, and really, hopefully, we've helped everyone out there tonight.
Thank you, guys. You do a lot for this. You do a lot for the industry.